I give up trying to figure out this league. Nope. Just going to sit here and drink my beer. Grossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to the episode of Packcast, the podcast where you don't have to be a Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom Grossi, and wow, that was a week in the NFL. A week in which I had a historic low correct predictions because everyone that should have won did not win. Yeah, this is the week of upsets galore. And so what we'll do is we'll break down each game and go bit by bit and try to sift through the rubble that was Week 10 in the NFL, which really put the phrase any given Sunday front and center this week. So let's start off with the Thursday night game. You had the LA Chargers coming fresh off a win against the Green Bay Packers in which they dominated, taking on the Raiders at home. And the Chargers defense seemed to be doing the same exact thing in which they were getting to Derek Carr, making him uncomfortable. And then Phillip Rivers threw 3 interceptions that night. Yeah, he was terrible. Where was this when he was playing Green Bay? He had to just decide, I'm going to magically do good. I started him in fantasy this week. That was a mistake. I thought the Chargers would win this week. That was a mistake. This is why no one's taking your team seriously. But all in all, you had Josh Jacobs had another good night. He had the game-winning TD. And really, this was just kind of like a feel-good, wholesome moment for the Raiders and their fan base. The last most likely primetime game in that stadium. You know, Gruden going around and interacting with fans. And it was kind of like a nice moment because, you know, then they realize that they're being abandoned by that team. And then that moment becomes less genuine and heartfelt. But the Raiders picking up a win here. Tough divisional matchup. And it's tough to get a read on what either team is doing this season. The Raiders have shown some highlights in which Josh Jacobs obviously has been the major highlight of their season. And the Chargers are so inconsistent, it's really hard to even judge them if they're contenders or not. But I think after losing to the Raiders, I think that any playoff hopes that they even potentially had are pretty much shot. Then moving on to the complete and total garbage bowl that was the Giants versus the Jets. This was such a laughably bad game in which both teams were just so epically bad that at the end, it really doesn't matter who won. The Jets won this game. It's not on the stat sheets, but they won. Daniel Jones had 4 touchdowns. Barkley had 31 total yards and had 1 yard on the ground rushing. And it was gross. Sam Darnold didn't play that well. It was just bad. It was so bad. The Jets wanted to have some kind of superiority over the Giants, but in actuality, these teams are so exhaustingly horrid that it really doesn't matter who wins this, because at this point, I'm just hoping they both get absorbed into the swamps of the Meadowlands so I never have to hear from either of them again, because the performance that they put on Sunday is one that I want to sear out of my mind and never think about ever again. What game? Then moving on to, shocker again of the week, the Falcons beating the Saints at home 26-9. 26-9. Kamara only got 4 carries on the ground. Drew Brees, no touchdowns. Matt Ryan looked somewhat decent. The Falcons defense showed up. What is this? What year is this? Never? Because that never happens at the Falcons defense. Sure as hell isn't this year. The Falcons, who have been unable to pull their heads out of their collective asses all year, decided to show up against one of the best teams in the NFL. And they embarrassed the Saints. The Saints had plenty of opportunities to come back, and then they shot themselves in the foot. They could never get it going. Michael Thomas did everything that he could. But yeah, this game was just ugly. Now, obviously, this is Kamara's first week back after injury, and it is a divisional game, so I am going to put less of an emphasis on this. I'm not going to say the Saints are a terrible team and should be, completely banned from playoffs, but this team, or this game, does cause some concerns for Saints fans, as potentially the Falcons have just shown how to beat Drew Brees. Make him constantly uncomfortable, and basically everything will fall into place. But I think the bigger shocker is the Saints defense really didn't show up either. They've been pretty damn consistent and pretty good throughout the entire season, and they just did not show up against the Falcons. And so, an ugly, ugly loss for the Saints, and we'll see if they're able to bounce back next week. Then, yeah, here you go again. The Titans. What are you? No, seriously, what are you? I don't know if you're a good team. I don't know if you're an average team. I don't know if you're a bad team. But good God, I can't get a read on you at all. Beating the freaking Kansas City Chiefs 35-32. The Chiefs defense, it's bad. This is on them, right? Mahomes threw the ball 50 times for almost 450 yards and 3 touchdowns. It ain't Patrick Mahomes, and so the offense is fine. It's just that, good God, man. There was an intentional grounding call that killed them too, but the Titans, there was going to go into overtime. The Titans were able to jump the snap and block the field goal, but the Chiefs, man, they are much better than their record indicates, and this kind of showing is not good. The Titans, again, you're a slightly above average team, and that's me being complimentary to you. So, this isn't going to make the Titans season take off, but this will potentially cause the Chiefs to have some pause. Then, moving on to the only game that freaking made sense this week, and that is the Ravens beating up on the Bengals 49-13. Simple math here. Lamar Jackson is essentially playing like God right now. The Bengals are playing like complete dog crap. And so, yeah, that's about it. The Bengals, they can't win a game to save their life. Nobody's surprised here. Lamar Jackson and that offense rolled over the Bengals. Even in this divisional game, they were like, it's okay. You're so irrelevant. No one will ever think about you ever again. You should have gotten rid of A.J. Green when you could, because then maybe you could have rebuilt your dumpster fire of a team. Then you had the Bills losing to the Browns. Every single time I pick the Bills, 16-19. Josh Allen, 22 for 41, over 250 yards, had 2 rushing touchdowns on the ground, but yeah, that was basically all their offense, and that's it, because they really didn't have a running game after that. Chubb played really, really well, and hey, Baker Mayfield actually played a decent game. But this, yeah, neither of these teams, I know, the Bills keep saying, the Bills keep wanting to be taken seriously of, look how good we are, and then this happens every single time. Both of you bad. Go your room. You're not winning the AFC East. I don't think you're going to make the playoffs, and especially if you're not going to play like this. Your offense needs help. Needs help, damn it. Then moving on, you had the Cardinals taking on the Buccaneers on 2 slightly above average teams, depending on what day of the week it is. Cardinals losing 27-30. Listen, Kyler Murray had a good game. Kyler Murray has quietly been having a really good rookie season, considering he has literal garbage to block for him and really not a whole lot of weapons behind him either. Winston, yeah, he's still bad. Still throwing picks all over the place, but they were able to pull it out, and good God, those receivers are way too good for him. Please, Buccaneers, just give them to a good home. Mike Evans doesn't deserve to die on your team. But yeah, neither team is fine, but the Buccaneers had a pirate ship, so they were able to sail away with the victory. That's all I got. I got puns for this game. Then you had the Detroit Lions going into Chicago without Matthew Stafford, which I wish I knew before taking on the Bears, losing 13-20. No Stafford. Yeah, playing up against a QB who never plays ever. Yeah, that's why the Bears won this game. And not very well either, only by a touchdown. Trubisky, though, threw 3 touchdowns. See, I told you the kid could play. Maybe the Chicago will, change their mind about Trubisky, and this will be a real turning point for their season. Or not. Yeah, no, none of those things are going to happen. So, right now it's a race to the bottom for these 2 teams. Then you had the Dolphins, good for them, picking up their second win, beating the Colts 16-12 in a game that shouldn't have been a thing again. But the Dolphins now on a 2-game winning streak, which is better than the majority of the NFL. Obviously Jacoby Brissett not there again. Hoyer throwing 3 interceptions, and throwing 3 interceptions. It doesn't matter if you're playing the Dolphins. It's going to be tough to win that game. Ask Phillip Rivers going up against the Raiders. And so the Dolphins, yeah, they're really hurting their chances to tank for the number 1 spot, because there's teams like the Bengals that are just sitting there going, Gimme, gimme, gimme that quarterback whose life I will make miserable. Then you had the Carolina Panthers going into Green Bay, losing 16-24. Yes, there were bad calls, but that defense, they stood strong when they had to, stopping Christian McCaffrey on the 1-yard line as time expired in regulation. Really close game between two good teams. I wouldn't be surprised if you see the Panthers floating around for that final wild card spot as the Packers rebounded after being embarrassed by the Chargers last week. This was definitely a great game and a perfect way to go into the bye as they take on San Francisco on now the Sunday night game when they return. And listen, that will be for first place in the NFC. Oh, my nipples. Then moving on to the Rams losing to the Steelers. Now, 12-17. Jared Goff threw 2 interceptions, 22 for 41. Bad. Just bad. Todd Gurley never really got it going either. I think just had over 70 yards. But here's the real story. The Steelers' defense, and they haven't lost since week 5, in which they lost an overtime game against the Ravens, who in my opinion are the best team in the NFL right now. Yeah, the Steelers are playing sneakily good football. Minkah Fitzpatrick playing amazing football right now. And so you look at this, and the Dolphins just, God. But anyway, the Steelers look like they're rebounding as they're one of the stronger teams over the past few weeks, and they haven't been necessarily playing just pushovers. So for the Steelers, good for them. Maybe potentially they can make a surge into the playoffs. Who knows? Only time will tell. Rams, yeah, that Super Bowl hangover sucks, huh? Then moving on to the Vikings and the Cowboys. The Vikings going on the road and picking up a win against Dak Prescott and the boys. The Vikings were pretty much in control of this entire game, and it showed. The second half allowed the Cowboys to come back a little bit, but like I said, there was nothing that was ever really to worry about. Kirk Cousins played well. Cook played okay. They never really could get Ezekiel Elliott going on the ground at all, and so the Cowboys struggle with that. Amari Cooper made some phenomenal catches in that game, though, as well as Kyle Rudolph, who is definitely one of the keys to the Vikings' success. So the Vikings stay right behind the Packers in the NFC North. Just go away, please. Just go away and never come back. And then finally, you had the Monday night game, which was an incredible game. The Seahawks knocking off the 49ers in overtime, 27-24, giving the 49ers their first loss. Now, the 49ers could have easily won this game if their field goal kicker could actually hit a field goal, but Russell Wilson, who wasn't completely Superman, played pretty average. The first half, the 49ers defense gave him a whole lot of problems, sacking him, putting a lot of pressure on him. And Jimmy G, played okay. But that's where the weak part of this offense is. Now, obviously, they were missing guys like Kittle, missing some components on that team. But the 49ers are still a good football team, and the Seahawks are still a good football team. But this really could mess with the playoff standings going down the line, as the 49ers do need to play the Seahawks once again. And so, who knows what will happen, but this does open the door for the Green Bay Packers to slide into those DMs and take that number 1 spot. But what did you think about Week 10 in the NFL? A lot of shockers, a lot of surprises. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. You can always find me at TomGrossiComedy.com or at TomGrossiComedy. All social media is seen down below. Check out podcasts on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, Spotify, and of course YouTube. And a big shout and thank you to all our Patreon members over at patreon.com/TomGrossiComedy. But thank you so much for watching. We'll have predictions tomorrow. I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack Go.